And hello and welcome to Forum 360, a program where we talk about very interesting topics, a global outlook on that topic with a local view. And today we are talking about agriculture and especially the Ohio Farm Bureau. I'm Bill Stephen Souse, your host, and we have Ty Higgins, who is from the Ohio Farm Bureau, based in Columbus, Ohio, but all over the state of Ohio, you'll see Farm Bureau members and Farm Bureau activity. Welcome, Ty, to Forum 360.
Hey, Bill.
Good to have you
Thank
here.
you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Ohio's most important industry.
That's exactly right. And one of the things, whenever I go to a county fair, I always pick up a T-shirt from the Farm Bureau, and this one I picked up, I believe, over in Portage County, and it said, "The Ohio Farm Bureau, thank a farmer." And it's got the Ohio Farm Bureau logo, established in 1919. So we're starting our second 100 years here, and we are talking more about what farmers are experiencing today. And tell us a little bit about the history of the Farm Bureau here in Ohio. Again, 1919, I believe at the Ohio State University in Columbus.
That's right, yeah.
It started there.
1919. We just celebrated 100 years about 6 years ago, and as you mentioned, into our second 100 years. But as much as things have changed since 1919, a lot of things have stayed the same. Farm Bureau was created to help farmers that were going through some pretty rough times, to work with policymakers in Columbus and in Washington to make sure that farmers' best interests were in mind when our lawmakers make important decisions on behalf of all of us in our society. We do that to this day. We have strong roots at the county level. As you mentioned, we have county farm bureaus throughout the state. Of course, Ohio Farm Bureau works at the State House in Columbus and in Washington, D.C. And then American Farm Bureau is based in D.C. They work on a lot of our federal policies. But anything from car insurance, we'll talk about in a little bit, I'm sure, that came from Ohio Farm Bureau back in the day. Rural electrification, the way you co-op and market grain, all the way up to today when you talk about things like rural broadband and legislation as big as the Farm Bill. The challenges are still there for farmers in Ohio and throughout the country, and luckily Farm Bureau is still there too.
And here in the Western Reserve, Northeast Ohio, we have so many interesting farm-related subjects to deal with. But one of the things we can talk about is Akron, Ohio, the famous Quaker oats. The Quaker oats, and that you talk about how grain and oats, the staple for America. And every time we go to a grocery store, every time we go to a place where we eat, restaurants, thank a farmer, because thankfully, many of our Northeast Ohio restaurants and stores that are selling groceries and so forth are utilizing farmers right here in Northeast Ohio and around the state. Some of the things that I know are priority issues. Can you name a few that this year and in the near future, Ty, we're going to be dealing with as Ohio farmers?
I think first and foremost, and you brought up a great point in your part of the state, that Quaker oats was once a staple there, right?
Right.
But look at how the landscape has changed in that part of the state. Farmland preservation has to be first and foremost a priority for not just Ohio farmers, but really all of us. To be honest, in the last year, we saw a decrease of 1,800 farms and 200,000 acres of farmland. In a year, we saw a decrease of 200,000 acres of farmland. Making sure that we have as much farmland in production agriculture as possible to maintain the strength of Ohio's agriculture industry is paramount to Ohio Farm Bureau. And there are many different ways of going about that we can talk about through our conversation. But really, it's just about making sure that farm families are protected in order to do what they do best in a way that works best for them. Agriculture is not a one-size-fits-all approach. There are a lot of different types of agriculture in Ohio. We're one of the most diverse agricultural states in the country.
Very diverse. right.
Yeah, of course we have corn and soybeans and wheat, but then you look at the fruits and vegetables that we grow. We grow
Right.
peaches in Ohio. We grow cucumbers in Ohio. We grow garlic in Ohio.
And
We have the climate for everything.
the grape industry, we have the wineries
Yes. Yes.
all around Lake Erie and down in southern Ohio, where the climate is a little bit conducive to growing grapes, and talk about that industry. That's one of the industries that restaurants and other organizations really rely on. Now, let's say to start out, some of the interesting programs that started as a result of the Ohio Farm Bureau back in the early days, the 4-H program for children, for youth, and then Future Farmers of America. These were kind of stimulated by the Farm Bureau, correct?
Well, absolutely, and we still focus on young people in agriculture. You know, A.B. Graham, when he started 4-H, it was about getting young people interested, and you know, at the time, it was getting your hands dirty, right?
Right, right.
And that's changed a little bit. When we talk about the future of agriculture's workforce, you know, a lot has changed as far as technological advances go. And now when we talk with kids, of course we want them to be in the field and be farmers if that's what they're interested in. But there are so many different ways that young people can get involved in agriculture now. We have drones in the air doing surveying of crops in the field. We have tractors that now drive themselves thanks to GPS and the hardware and software that goes with that. So many exciting things for young people that maybe didn't even grow up on a farm or maybe haven't been on a farm. The opportunities are there, and we need the workforce. We're shy about 40,000 people in the ag workforce over the next 10 years. And so recruiting those young people to become interested in this industry is going to be something that keeps us strong for generations to come. And that was the vision of FFA and 4-H all those years ago, is to get those young people involved, get that next generation of agriculturalists into the fold, and we continue to do that today.
Where are Ohio farmers doing really well nationally or even internationally? What are some of the really key advantages that Ohio has with our land and our weather? Do you see anything where Ohio is really super in terms of agriculture?
Well, I think that having the conversation with the general public is something we do really well in Ohio, and there's many reasons for that. Just where you are, Akron and Cleveland. And what used to be farmland is now maybe suburban acres, right? We have families and maybe a quarter-acre piece of land and a house and a backyard with a swing. But you look at around the state with Toledo and Dayton, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus. We have all these metropolitan areas that continue to sprawl towards the rural parts of Ohio. But that really does give an option for farmers to connect with the consumer directly. And we're seeing that a lot over the last 5 years. Since 2020 in particular, people have become more and more aware of their food and where it comes from. And I think that the way we're positioned in Ohio with those metropolitan and mid-sized metropolitan areas is the opportunity for farmers to work directly with consumers in those areas and have conversations about food, how it's grown and raised, how we have the safest and most abundant and affordable food supply of anyone in the world. As Americans, we spend the least amount of our food dollar on groceries than anywhere else around the globe. And that's because of the great farmers that we have here in Ohio and across the country, able to do things so efficiently and so economically that it really does benefit all of us, whether it's 3 meals a day or like me, sometimes 4. It really is something that no other country can say about their agriculture sector.
One of the things we talked about is some of our strategic partners, and you alluded to it at the beginning of the broadcast. A lot of organizations that started as a result of the Farm Bureau, and one which is now nationwide and is nationwide insurance. That's the perfect name for it. But it all started in Ohio with the Ohio Farm Bureau being a catalyst, correct? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the advantages of having a nice financial insurance company based right here in Ohio.
Yeah, I guess first I'll say Nationwide is the number one farm insurer in the U.S.,
Right.
and that's because of its roots.
Right. Right
So
here.
it all started because Ohio Farm Bureau members were getting charged the same amount for their automobile insurance as city dwellers,
Right.
even though city folk drove a lot more than farm people did. And so those rural Ohioans decided that they needed to find a better way to save money on insurance. And so
And
they did that through Ohio Farm Bureau and started Ohio's Automobile Mutual Insurance Company.
there we go.
And that all spanned from Ohio Farm Bureau, which later, in 1926, became Nationwide Insurance, and now it's a Fortune 500 company.
Very good.
In fact, half of Nationwide's board, so Nationwide Insurance, half of their board of directors are farmers.
Right.
And it
And
all started because
the
Ohio
Ohio
Farm
Farm
Bureau
Bureau.
gave life to Nationwide Insurance. It really is a great story, and it all started because our members had a problem, and we found a way to find a solution.
And there are other strategic partners. One thing, as a member of the Farm Bureau, you can receive benefits from different types of organizations. And talk about the Buckeye State and their rich farm heritage. Talk about the effect of having the Ohio State University and ATI in Worcester, the agricultural technology that is taught at these various universities. So have you interfaced with some of the professors and some of the educators, and what are they most excited about?
Well, I'll tell you, we do have a podcast that features those professors
Right.
and distinguished people from the Ohio State University's College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. And
Right.
there is so much going on there. We're so fortunate to have someone, an organization like Ohio State, to be able to help us find the trends in agriculture.
Right.
What's agriculture going to look like in 10, 15, 20 years? You and I really can't visualize that, but
No.
Ohio State can. And we're talking just this week on the podcast. I had someone on talking about the future of food.
Right.
Our food system is being talked about quite a bit these days.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that is in our food, some of the ways that our food is produced. And so they have laboratories that they're working right now to find alternative solutions for what we're seeing in a changing dynamic of our food system. Technology, I mentioned earlier, at ATI and at main campus of Ohio State, they're getting students into labs to find out more about the technology that's happening in agriculture with drones,
Mm-hmm.
with software, and with tractors that is going to make farmers even more efficient than they are today. We have technology that allows farmers to go over a field and put fertilizer where it's needed and not where it isn't, right? Instead of just
Mm-hmm.
one blanket coverage of products, farmers are saving, of course, that product. They're saving money because of it. And the technology to be able to really map out the field zone by zone and put products where it's needed and save it where it's not is something that farmers have started using over the last 10 years. But that technology is growing, and now we're seeing it from the air with drones, and it's exciting. But Ohio State really is at the forefront of all of the changes in agriculture, and to have that College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences as part of our three-legged stool, so Ohio Farm Bureau, Nationwide, and Ohio State, that partnership has blossomed into really developing some fantastic opportunities for young people to learn about agriculture, but also for farmers to learn about
Right.
agriculture, what
All
they
right.
don't know on the farm, and how what they might have to change to be better farmers, and how to institute those changes, what that looks like, and the steps they need to take in order to get there.
Our guest is Ty Higgins. He is from the Ohio Farm Bureau, and he is the Senior Director of Communications and the host of the podcast. And I'm Bill Stephen Souse, your host on Forum 360, and we are talking about farming and the relationship between Ohioans and stores and restaurants and one of the key connections is farming. And Ty, when I read from the Our Ohio magazine, which comes out periodically from the Farm Bureau, the publication often talks about family farming. And you touched on it. how do we see family farming continuing? We want to reestablish the generations, continue from my grandfather started it, your father, and on down, mother, and so forth. So tell us some of the advantages the Farm Bureau helps with family farming.
96% of our farms are family-owned operations.
Wonderful.
And a lot of family businesses are an LLC for tax purposes, right? And so
Yes, right,
it may be a corporation, and people
right,
talk about corporate farming, but
right,
that corporate farm is still a family farm.
right,
Maybe grandpa's the CEO and the son or daughter or CFO and CIO, and it's still set up like a corporation, but the family's involved, that's a family farm. And as much as farmers are really good at planning for the short term, farmers right now, they're planning for this year's crop, and
right,
and they're making marketing plans, and they're making planting and harvesting plans. But farmers have a hard time planning for the future, and that's one thing that Ohio Farm Bureau is working very heavily on to protect Ohio's agrarian heritage, is to make sure the next generation and the next generation after that are prepared. And so, thanks to Nationwide, there's a program called Land as Your Legacy, and it helps that older generation thinking about plans to put together. God forbid, should they leave this earth, they leave the farm to the next generation.
hmm
Making those plans solidified and in place, making sure the whole family is on the same page as to where the patriarch and matriarch, grandma and grandpa, want to see that farm go for the
right,
next 20, 30, 50 years. Getting that down on paper and making sure everyone knows exactly what that plan is vital to continuing that farm. And when those plans aren't in place, not so great things happen to those farms. And
right,
so
yeah,
important for us to, and those are hard conversations to have, Bill. Don't get me wrong. No
right,
one wants to talk about, the end of life, or,
hmm
what happens when I'm gone. Those
hmm
are hard
hmm
conversations to
hmm
have. And family dynamics, just like with every other family, sometimes they get a little hairy too. But we need to have those open conversations, and we need to put a plan in place to make sure that farm is protected and it goes to the right people to keep it in agriculture production for generations to
How
come.
can the Ohio Farm Bureau help the economics of farming, helping tractors, trucks, combines, all these agricultural equipment problems? Because the way the economy is, we need to purchase those things or long-term rentals. How does Farm Bureau facilitate that type of concern for young farmers or farm families to
Well, I guess
buy
I'll
the
start
equipment?
by, yeah, I'll start by talking about some of our member benefits where we
hmm
have discounts on new tractors and combines, and all the way down to lawnmowers, and that, it's something that if you're a Farm Bureau member, you get those discounts automatically. But
Yeah,
you mentioned new and beginning farmers,
yeah,
and that is, it's vital to Ohio agriculture. I mentioned that we lost 1,800 farms
yeah,
over the last year, and a lot of those farms are those middle-sized farms. We're seeing the larger farms get a little bigger, and we're seeing more small farms come into play. And that's where the new and beginning farmers are coming in and making their mark, especially over the last 10 years,
right.
where they're finding niche products to produce there locally. We actually just got policy through a couple of years ago for the new and beginning farmer grant programs. And this helps farmers that want to come in, new and beginning farmers want to come into agriculture, helps them connect with older farmers that maybe don't have family that wants to continue the farm. So what this does is it gives the older farmer a tax break for working with the younger farmer, and the younger farmer also gets a tax break to carry on that farm. They may not be related in any way, shape, or form,
Right.
but at least makes that connection to where that younger farmer can take over that for that older farmer that doesn't have a plan in place, and benefits them both in the long run to continue. Again, the main goal is to keep that farm in agriculture production. And so that's something we've been very excited about with the New and Beginning Farmer Program, and it's worked. Farmers are coming in and they're learning about finances. That's important, right? When you're a new and
Right.
beginning
Very
farmer,
much so.
to learn the books. How do we make a profit? What do we do with that profit? And so that's part of the plan as well through the Ohio Department of Agriculture, is to go through a financial planning workshop, and then work with that farmer to continue that farm's legacy. May not
Now,
be within the same family, but it continues to be in agriculture production, and that's
now,
goal number one.
now the Ohio Farm Bureau always active with the county fairs in Ohio. And we've had some of the largest ones right here in Northeast Ohio, Mahoning County, with the Canfield Fair, one of the largest, and rivals some of the largest all around the country. So how does the Farm Bureau assist in getting these county fairs, the county fair boards, working with the farmers that are working on the projects? You see the fruits of their labor. You see the cattle, you see the cows, pigs, chickens, goats, you name it. And tell us a little bit about your activity and how the regions are affected by the county fair system.
It's so important. It's right there in our mission statement to work together with Ohio farmers to advance agriculture and strengthen our communities. That community aspect and what we do at the county level is really the backbone of Ohio Farm Bureau as a whole. And the county fair is a great time for that. Even though we do things all year long,
Yeah.
the county fair gives us a chance to really showcase and highlight what we do as an organization. And a lot of that, Bill, is about those conversations that we had earlier with the consumer, right?
Right.
Many people don't see farm animals until they go to the county fair. So they have questions.
Right.
They want to know, maybe even what the animal is or how raising an animal like that is different compared to a cow or a chicken or a goat, what have you. But also the way that county farm bureaus support our youth at those county fairs.
Right.
They always have sales of those 4-H exhibits that are outstanding in each species. And Farm Bureau's there with a check
Right.
to buy those animals and really support those kids that put in hours and hours of work in the barn with those animals to make sure they're in tip-top shape by county fair time. And that all trickles down to supporting our community, right? In whatever way we can, that's what Ohio Farm Bureau does. And outside of the county fair, of course, we have events like Breakfast on the Farm, and we go to a lot of other community events, and we're really throughout the thread of rural Ohio, you'll find Ohio Farm Bureau. You'll see our logo, which I have here on my
I see your logo here.
and behind me here. You can't go anywhere in rural Ohio without seeing that logo because we're so involved in everything that our community is doing day in and day out.
And I noticed you with farm security in terms of the activity, even the criminal activity, people desecrate things, steal from farms. You've got still have the reward system where, to turn in those that are criminally damaging farms, you have the property protection program. Tell us, that's a very important part of it too.
We just handed out a $5,000 check last week in Wood County, Ohio, because someone caught thieves on a property that it was an Ohio Farm Bureau member's property, and they had the sign that you'll see behind me. They had it placed on the barn.
Right.
And when someone finds something a little bit squirrely on the farm and they call it into the cops, and if the person that's causing the crime is caught, then the person that had called in the crime gets a $5,000 reward. So it really is just an extra pair of eyes, another way to keep our farm protected in places where we don't have closed caption cameras everywhere on the farm. Right? We just need our neighbors' eyes to protect us because of the technology that we have in suburban and urban parts of Ohio.
Rural crime exists, and I think we don't realize it because we see all the crimes in the urban areas increasing. Tell us a little bit about how people can get in touch with the Farm Bureau. What are some of the ways? I know the website I like looking at is www.ofbf.org, which stands for Ohio Farm Bureau Federation. So that's one way. Any phone number or some type of contact for that initial call to, I'd like to get involved if somebody listening to or watching our program.
Yeah, the website's always going to be the best way. You'll find our contact information there. I also oversee our social media. So you'll find us on Facebook and X and Instagram. We're even the most followed State Farm Bureau in the country on TikTok.
Wow.
So there are ways to get a hold of us there as well. And really, as you mentioned, the resources that we have, all the work that we're doing, as far as the way we shape policy, the way we keep our farmers ahead of trends, the business solutions that we offer. You mentioned healthcare, health benefits plan for companies and their employees. And then the leadership opportunities, the ways that we help our members grow personally and professionally. You'll find all that on our website. But really, we do have a fun way of telling our story on social media as well. So I encourage you, if you're on any of those platforms I mentioned, just to search Ohio Farm Bureau, and you'll see what we're up to on any given day, and be able to contact us through those mediums as well.
All right, we have about a minute left, and I want to just thank you, Ty Higgins, for being a part of our Forum 360. And I want to thank you for talking about the strategic partners, all the organizations that are helping fund farming and enhance farming, and that's important. We got 1 minute left, so Ty, what is the one thing you want to tell Northeastern Ohio farmers and our audience?
Well, agriculture is Ohio's #1 industry. $130 billion a year. 1 in 8 jobs, Bill, are tied to farming and food production.
Right.
And I always like to emphasize that food security is national security. We see a lot of countries that don't have food security, and we see what's happening in those countries. And the reason that the U.S. is not like those countries is because of Ohio's farmers, really the backbone of our society, and it's our job to make sure they can continue to be so.
Well, next time you go to the grocery store and you purchase maybe some milk or any type of farm product, you want to, next time you're traveling into the rural areas outside of our cities, thank a farmer. And that's one of the famous slogans of the Ohio Farm Bureau. Our guest has been Ty Higgins. He's the Senior Director of Communications and podcast host for the Ohio Farm Bureau. Thank you for being on Forum 360 and promoting farming.
Thanks for the opportunity, Bill. I appreciate the time.
Have a great day.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.